Hey,
Hey, good morning. I
hey,
mean, morning.
good morning to you. Good evening here, but good morning to
Yeah, yeah,
you. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It's been really busy week
yeah.
since last week. So yeah, I've got your email, but I hadn't have a time to reply to you. So I
It's okay.
apologize that. But
No,
yeah, thank you so much for the email about the
yeah,
podcast and things.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I figure we can dive into that. Since
Mm-hmm.
especially since I'm assuming you looked at it, but you probably didn't get to like dive deep into it. So,
Mm-hmm.
which is totally fine because we can use this meeting for that. So that's what I was kind of hoping for. But before we dive
Mm-hmm.
on into that, do you have any thoughts or any kind of questions or anything like that that you popped up into your head?
Um, you mean about the podcast or just anything?
Anything in general from even from the other the topics I sent you for our other collab
Hmm.
or
Yeah, yeah.
anything you're struggling with? So
Hmm.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Well, it's been really busy, so I feel like I can't deal with so many things at the same time. So
Yeah, yeah, that's fine.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I just
So
wanted to ask. Yeah,
okay, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, I wanna, I have so many things going on, like
Um,
two projects going on,
uh,
and also my project and your project and podcast and stuff like that. So
okay.
I'm like, oh shoot,
Is that
yeah,
okay? Do you feel like you're being stretched too far? Do you tell me what you're feeling because then I can always help adjust things so it can go better with like I don't know, with the rhythm of in
yeah,
which you work.
yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Talking to you and this meeting, totally love it.
Yeah.
I love it. So
Okay.
yeah, that's no problem. But
Mhm.
yeah, I'm just busy, especially this week and
Okay.
next week,
Okay.
since deadline is coming. So I just feel sorry that I can't concentrate on our thing,
Yeah.
you know,
That's fine.
this
Yeah, yeah.
week and next week.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I just wanna tell you, beforehand.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. When is
Yeah,
your
yeah, yeah.
deadline?
Next week. Well, I had the deadline yesterday,
Hmm.
and also another one is coming next week,
Okay.
next
Okay.
Friday. But
Okay.
I have to create the rough sketches due by tomorrow.
Okay.
So yeah,
Uh,
I feel like every day is like coming the deadlines this week.
okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
I guess it's kind of a good thing because if you continue to have deadlines, that means you're having client work, correct?
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so,
It's just
so
a magazine work, but yeah,
it's that what?
magazine work like a magazine.
Mm, oh, magazine work.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay. So your magazine work is not client work?
uh-huh, yeah,
So your magazine work is client work.
yes,
It is. Okay.
yeah, it is.
Okay, okay,
Yeah,
okay, okay. So
yeah.
what do you mean by accept magazine work?
Huh?
I thought you
Oh
said,
no, no. I didn't say that. I think
okay,
I
okay,
say
okay.
some words, and then
Uh,
I mean the pronunciation was not going.
oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, so
Gotcha.
yeah,
Gotcha. Okay.
yeah,
Gotcha.
yeah. So how was your weekend?
It's good. Like you, I'm booking more of these meetings with people, trying to help them, as well as trying to
Mm-hmm.
work with other people to get them featured on the blog. I'm still kind of waiting for. I know your situation, so I know you're kind of working on the things. I know you told me you're gonna get the Adobe
Mm-hmm.
stuff to me, but I'm still kind of waiting for Patricia. Emily is good. She's golden. Like she sent me her responses about like 4 days ago, and this morning she sent me some
Nice.
images that
Oh wow.
from the residency and stuff like that. I
Mm-hmm.
haven't gotten time to look at it yet, but I'm sure they're good. And I know yours are coming because you already spoke to me about it, but I haven't heard. Um,
Patricia.
not really. I've heard like one response from Patricia about like she wanted to know more about my blog and stuff like that. So I gladly told her. But since then, I haven't heard much about her. And so depending on how things go, I was trying to get that article out released on Wednesday because that's my deadline for every week to put out a new piece of
Oh,
article.
okay.
Yeah. So we'll see how that is. If I don't get her response, then I'm gonna have to, um,
Reschedule
yeah,
or
I'm gonna have to push that
Mhm,
back and put another article to come out on that Wednesday. So we'll see. And then I'm
mhm,
kind of planning another article about acrylic painting. So I'm working with
mhm. What is what painting?
acrylic painting. Yeah.
Oh, what is it?
So the our article will be about acrylic painting, and I'm just gathering more people who are acrylic painters to um, um, collab together and kind of share their wisdom. And so
Mm-hmm,
that one is a future post. And then of course I'm working on with you and other people about other
mm-hmm.
collabs. So I'm kind of
Yeah.
juggling all this stuff like kind of
Uh-huh.
similar to
Yeah,
you. I'm
yeah.
juggling these things.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
so, and the funny thing is kind of like I knew I was a workaholic, but the funny thing is that I kind of want to do more. I kind of want to juggle more. So,
You got
yeah,
frustrated, huh?
yeah. Yeah. So I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but yeah. So I just kind of
It's
want to
good.
do
It
that.
must
Yeah,
be good, I think.
yeah.
And yeah, I'm just so amazed that how hard worker you are. Yeah, because even weekend you research about our podcast topic, which I really appreciate that
yeah,
actually.
yeah.
And I don't really see people who's working on the weekend too, like except Japanese. So you are such a hard worker.
Well,
Yeah.
that's probably because I'm part Korean too. I'm not sure if you know, I'm like
Oh, are you?
50%. Yeah.
Oh,
So it's
oh,
like a huge thing in Korean culture of that work there too. Like to the point where it's
yes.
not so much that much anymore, but traditionally in Korea, um,
Hmm.
you have to come to your work before your boss, and you couldn't leave work until after your boss. So this is why
Right.
yeah, so this is why
The eight character, I think.
yeah, my cousins are actually even going through this currently is even though it's a little bit better, it's like they tell me they will spend like 12, 13, 14 hour days. 12, 13,
Hmm.
14 hour days is like a doctor in America, but over in
Yeah,
Korea is like a normal it's like a normal
right.
thing. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Wow. Yeah,
Hmm.
I think it tends to be the Asian culture, like
Yeah.
Japanese also
Yeah.
have the same issue.
Yeah.
That's why I don't like working in Japan.
Yeah. My cousins say that too. My cousins
Yeah,
kind of say that too.
yeah. Wow.
It
Oh, your parents and your cousin live in Korea or?
Yeah, I have a lot of them over there too. I'm closest with
Oh,
I call it well, she's my Nuna, and basically what Nuna means is basically like my older sister. It kind of
mm-hmm,
means that, but she's my cousin. So yeah,
mm-hmm,
closest with her. Then she has a brother and she has a younger sister too. And yeah, she told me it's like things are getting better. So hopefully
mm-hmm.
there will be a change, but
Yeah.
we'll see how that goes. I'm assuming I'm. Is it typical for a Japanese person to work long hours too, as well? Like 12?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's becoming the serious issue because we are working like overwork, but we
Yeah.
don't get paid.
Yeah, exactly.
So our salary is still, not that, so, but,
Uh,
our working hours is getting longer and longer.
yeah.
So, yeah, so lots of people commit suicide, doing
We
commit
have the same
suicide because
problem.
of it.
Have the same
Yeah,
problem in
yeah.
Korea. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's time. I mean, I appreciate COVID-19
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
because they have to stop, you know, working, so hard.
Hmm.
And most of the people, not most of the people, but like I would say like 30% of Japanese
Hmm.
work from home now.
Hmm.
So I think they like, working at home, I think.
Mm,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Because they can control, their working hours
yeah,
instead of, being at the
yeah,
company.
yeah,
Yeah. And then I also reading the checking out the Twitter
yeah.
about the Shopify's CEO.
Hmm.
I forgot his name, but his name is Toby or something.
Okay.
And then he's talking about, how our society and how we work is going to change after COVID-19.
Yeah.
Yeah, so recently I'm so interested in how, you know, our working style is going to change after COVID-19.
I already know some companies that have changed. Like, there's a direct TV. I'm not sure if you heard of them, but direct
Mm-hmm.
TV is
Yes,
basically a
yeah.
television company. Over okay, and
Okay.
yeah, so one of their upper management personnel people, she's a supervisor, she's a director, but I forget
Mm-hmm.
where her thing is, exact title. But she was telling
Yeah.
me how because of COVID-19, it changed up a lot of how the way the direct TV works. Before direct TV was very um, they really wanted they were very
Mm-hmm.
stubborn in terms of letting like everybody had to be in the office, so to speak, and work, right? But
Mm-hmm.
because of COVID-19, according to this director, she said
Mm-hmm.
that now because of COVID is like they basically sterilized all the computer equipment and sent it home to their workers. So now
Yeah,
people are
yeah.
working at home. So now their culture is completely changed around, and the interesting part is since
Mm-hmm.
they at the time when she was talking about it, I think they did it for about maybe 3 weeks, but since now it's probably been about like close to a month and a half or something like that. And they said that according to their data, they have been a lot more productive with people
Mm-hmm.
working at home. So we can see that their culture has completely changed, and it has
Mm-hmm.
been for the better. So I'm sure other companies will um,
Mm-hmm.
do something similar too.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
So how is it actually changing? Like a Shopify company. Shopify tells that working from home, like working like a satellite.
yeah,
I don't know what you call, but working from home is the way we work
yeah.
in the future, and then they're gonna have the office, like actual office in
Mhm,
somewhere,
mhm.
but it's just for the keeping the community
Yeah,
kind of. Yeah, so I think the definition of having the office
mhm,
for the company, it's going to change as well.
yeah,
But yeah, so I think the office is going to work part of the community and get keep engaging the between workers and workers,
yeah,
or the workers and the companies. I don't know, but
yeah.
yeah.
I think there's so many benefits. I won't even go to the benefits of just like you or me in terms of if from that, but just coming from a company's angle, there's so many benefits for them. Like now, DirecTV, they can
Mm-hmm.
so every company is going to have a certain price that they have to pay for the building they use, right? Whether it's rent, so everybody's going to
Mm-hmm.
have a monthly pay, so that
Yeah.
and that monthly is going to include like electricity and all sorts of costs. And right
Mm-hmm.
now, with the company adopting a more work from home kind of culture, that
Mm-hmm.
cost would dramatically cut down. So that means they can use that money to either employ more people,
Mm-hmm.
attain more resources, or make well if you're in a product industry, make more products, right? So you can
Mm-hmm.
have so you can cut down your costs and reinvest them
Mm-hmm.
somewhere else, or you can just cut down your costs and just cut down your costs and increase your profit.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
and not only in addition to that, like I know a lot of people, especially working moms. I have to give it up for working moms because if you're a working mother, your
Mhm.
biggest concern, if you have kids too, that like that's one of your biggest concerns about your kids having them in daycare. So many of my friends have children, and like they and that like that part of their lives is very important. So
Mhm.
so by kind of having a work from home kind of culture, then you can kind of um, basically that will
Mhm.
help with your retention, with the company's retention of keeping
Right.
employees, or
Mhm.
even just making employees like happier to being able to just be able to work from home and not having to deal with so many mental stress from them just
Mhm.
coming into the office.
Mhm.
It has a tremendous amount of impact,
Mhm.
and I think it's similar to what I'm kind of experiencing. I told you before is like when I started working from home, I saw like
Mhm.
all these like benefits and stuff like that. But the interesting
Mhm.
thing is like I'm constantly being surprised of these new benefits that are popping up. So I'm
Oh.
positive that other companies who who inherit that work from home philosophy and culture will experience the
Mhm.
same thing where they like it just continues to be a snowball of joy and happiness in terms of and benefits to the company that they don't even realize
Mhm.
when they first start doing it. So, yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah,
It's really good.
yeah.
Well, when you became a freelancer, and I'm sure the I think the American company had so much benefit for the employee,
Mm,
but um, so I feel like being a freelancer in the US is harder than Japan to start with, since you are gonna lose the benefit from the companies. But while you're not afraid of losing the health cares and stuff like that.
yeah. So in Japan, is your healthcare tied to your job or is it separate?
Um, uh, it's kind of both. Like
Okay.
we have different kinds of self-care system
Hmm.
uh, created by government, but company also has different kinds of benefit.
Hmm.
So even though we are freelancer, we still have the healthcare system that governments give us. But we have to pay like 10% of our annual salary.
Mm,
So as much as I make money, I have to pay more. And if I don't make money, in some years, I can pay less. So
mhm.
yeah, but still, the 10% of annual salary, it's kind of a lot.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
So yeah, and then I also have other taxes to pay
yeah,
to the government.
yeah.
So I think like half of uh, our annual salary, it's going to pay to the tax or tax system and stuff like
Mm,
that. So yeah,
yeah, yeah. That kind of
yeah.
sounds. So I think, so of course, if you're a freelancer over in America, you're self-employed, and anybody who's self-employed,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it depends on the amount of money that you make per year, but basically it's around, I'd say, a third of your annual salary. So about
Mm-hmm.
like, I would say about 34 to 38% of the money you earn will go to um, taxes. Now that taxes consists of
Okay.
your self-employment tax and of course
Mm-hmm.
the other tax that you pay.
Yeah.
So yeah, so yeah, it sounds
Oh.
similar to Japan. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Oh
But
okay.
yours it seems
Wow.
more half, like 50% is a lot.
I
Yeah.
think so. And then
Yeah, it's a lot. Yeah.
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 And then, I also appreciate COVID-19 because Japanese government always hides the problem that we are facing on.
Mm,
and they always appear that they are working so well,
mhm,
and then nobody tells that what's going on and the reality was.
mm,
But after the COVID-19 happened, um obviously, well, uh it's totally new situation, so I don't think people can organize and deal with this kind of situation well. But Japanese government especially is not working so well.
mhm.
So and we didn't know how terrible they were,
Yeah.
so the election is coming, I think, this fall in Japan.
Oh wow, you too?
So
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
yeah, so it's pretty good sign to to judge which politics are good and bad.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're
so
very
I
similar
feel,
too.
oh yeah.
Yeah, we have an election coming up as well too, so
Oh, okay.
yeah.
And then I wonder, that Trump, I don't know. Well, I don't know if you like Trump or not, but yeah, I'm so excited about the American election too.
Really?
Be- Yeah, yeah, because American election uh, is like a game changer, I feel.
Oh yeah.
Like, back then, like, Obama was the president. I
Yeah.
don't know. Is it the president?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um,
president.
yeah, the world was more peaceful.
Yeah.
And after Trump
Yeah.
came out,
Yeah.
everybody, kind of, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, the current president from UK,
Yeah.
uh, same as Trump too. So,
Yeah.
the world is getting so weird.
Yeah.
And and also I realized, how powerful America is too.
Yeah.
Yeah, because based on the, who's president for the America, the world is going to change. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So it definitely, yeah. Uh, yeah, there's definitely influence there and stuff like that too. And I try
Uh,
not to get too political because the only thing Uh, I always try to keep my focus on art or my business
yeah,
or my family and stuff like that. But yeah,
yeah.
there's definitely influence. He even got me to be more concerned with some political things. So I guess that's a positive. But yeah, there's
Hmm.
definitely a lot of influence there too. So
Yeah.
currently we're in the talks with does Japan do anything like so in America we've done like a stimulus package to send money to the American people in this time of need. Has Japan done anything like that?
Well, they are doing like eventually.
Okay, okay.
I mean eventually.
Okay. Okay.
But it's funny because nobody get it still.
Oh wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. Well, they said they're going to send $1,000 to all of us
Hmm.
in Japan, but it's May. It's been 2 months, and
Yeah. Uh,
only a few people got it. And also, I don't know if you know it or not, but the mask.
mhm.
Um, the my prime minister um decided to give us the two masks for each family,
Yeah.
but my family at least have like 10 people.
Yeah.
So
Oh
I'm,
wow. You have a big
I mean,
family.
yeah, like like currently I live with my parents and me, so our family is three
Hmm.
people.
Yeah.
But I have my sister, like two sisters, and they are married and they have kids. So when I
Mm.
calculate, every number of the Fukuda family, it's 10. So
Are you the
I'm
youngest?
like, yeah, I am
Okay,
youngest.
okay.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. And then yeah, but we can get like two. So like, it's not enough, and yeah, and nobody needs it anymore because
Yeah.
we create our own mask already.
Uh,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's so expensive actually.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah, like the government give us the mask. It costs like 400 yen, like $4.
Hmm.
But when we buy a mask at the pharmacies, we get like same amount but 50 mask. So just one mask, and we
Oh.
can buy it like 50s, at the pharmacy. So there's no
Oh
point to, get it.
yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and always
Oh,
my prime minister's friend is, you know, dealing with, having the creating the mask, and so it's always, prime minister's connections and connections.
oh wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So yeah, so our I mean the Japan is not a healthy company anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also, we are afraid of speaking up
Yeah.
because Japan is also becoming like China.
Okay.
Yeah, well, we are not gonna arrest it
Yeah.
by saying and doing the hating things,
Yeah.
but like I don't know what to say, but we feel that we can't say it,
Okay.
like in public.
Okay.
So yeah, but I don't wanna relate to my art and politics either.
Yeah.
So I was trying to keep away and then trying not to say anything about my political view in public.
Yeah.
But I feel that I need to change that, and I
Hmm.
need to speak out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
There's nothing wrong with speaking up because the more people that voice their thoughts and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
then the greater chance it leading to change. Now,
Mm-hmm.
the reality of it is it probably won't change anytime soon. I've been fortunate enough to work with huge companies, and
Mm-hmm.
I've like whenever I work with these companies, um, there is like a system in place. There is a process, and that process is a very slow process because that company is so big. And I've learned that all the times that I thought this something can be done better, something that can be done more efficiently,
Mm-hmm.
even when I rally people that believe the same thing, like and even if there's like first of all there's when I present like this to the higher ups, there's well, I would say less than 25% chance of them kind of agreeing. So even
Mm-hmm.
if they do agree, so even if they check mark and agree and stuff like that and kind of push this forward, it still takes an unbelievably long time for some change to happen. So, but I am an advocate of still speaking out because if you don't speak out, if I never spoke out before, or other people do, then that change will definitely not happen. So, but just keep in
Mm-hmm.
mind that it will take a long time if even if it does. Um,
Right.
yeah. So,
Mm-hmm. But once you spoke out, your mind
yeah.
and the way of your thinking
Yeah.
changed, or
Um. Uh. What do you mean by that? Like, are you
yeah,
asking?
yeah, like once you speak out
Mhm,
about your idea,
mhm,
did you feel more confident about yourself? And also the, like, I'm sure people agree with your idea,
mhm,
so that maybe you felt the your behavior changed in positive way. Or I'm just curious how you know uh being the speak out
mhm.
can change and affect you in positive way.
Okay, so I'll give. So here's a tip in terms of anybody who's speaking out, and it doesn't. It could be speaking about anything. For example, like I was reading a statistic a long time ago that said that um, um, men actually get more promotions than women. But
Mm-hmm.
the thing is, because I think it also uncovers that because women, on a whole, women were more passive about it. They felt they
Mm-hmm.
didn't ask more. They didn't ask as much as men did. So women weren't as assertive. So so when even it comes to just like getting a promotion or trying to
Mm-hmm.
uh, have a new idea to kind of make a positive change for your department. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so one of the things I learned is that you can say anything you want. You can propose any idea, and you shouldn't be afraid. But the way you do it is the important thing. So don't be
Oh.
afraid to ask anything, but just keep in mind the way in which you do it. Now, I don't know Japanese culture as much as you, so there might be a slight difference. But in America, like if you felt like you worked there a year and you felt like you really worked hard and you deserve a promotion, most people would just wait till that promotion comes to them. But I'm of a different mindset. Is I go out for it, right? But I talk about it in a very professional way. I give I try to get as much. You saw my research abilities, so I try to give as much data or whatever information that I have that kind of shows why I think that I should get a promotion or whatever it may
Oh.
be. So I present
Mm-hmm.
it in a very whenever I talk about anything, I present it in a very professional, respectful way.
Mm-hmm.
And because you
Yeah,
do it that
I
way,
I feel that too.
yeah.
Yeah.
So
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
because what?
yeah. So as long as you present it in a very respectful way, um, at the end of the day, people understand that you're another human, or you're another worker, and having those concerns about like money or your health or anything is very natural. So as long as you present it in a very respectful way, people on the other side will be very open to hearing about it, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
for example, I approached you and others about like wanting to help you, and I did. I felt like I did it in a very respectful way. But
Mm-hmm.
if I did
Yeah.
it in a very different way, if I say, "Hey, like you need to make stuff for my blog, right? You need to make stuff for my blog," you would probably be turned off by that. So, but because I came at it because I work with you in terms of how that could be a strategy to help increase your brand, you are more
Mhm.
open to hearing that. So it's just all
Wow.
about positioning. It's all about see that's kind of like so my about nearly 20 years experience in like marketing, web design, in
Mhm.
high and huge corporate culture, because I've been part of
Mhm.
huge companies. My experience in that has taught me a lot of things that I think I can use to help other artists like yourself, right?
Mhm.
Especially new artists that are new to the industry. So it's just called like a positioning, the way you kind of just the way you present yourself. So nothing is a bad idea. It just depends on how you position yourself. So
Oh,
mhm,
wow.
yeah.
I think you should be CEO for real.
Well, I'm technically a CEO of my own company, but yeah.
Right. That's
So,
true.
but yeah. So, but yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, I feel that way too.
yeah, yeah,
Um, During my residency and also working with you too.
yeah,
Well, in Japan, for some reason, we try not to act like professional.
yeah.
Um, we rather care how friendly we are and
Mhm,
how easy we are working with.
mhm,
So it tends to be like a friend to friend like communication,
mhm,
not like professional way.
mhm.
And most of our meeting are not necessary thing to do
Mm.
because we are not talking about the topic that we need to, but it's mostly about just nothing.
Yeah,
Like,
same here. In
yeah,
America
yeah.
too. That's
Oh,
common.
really?
Yep,
Oh, really?
yep.
So, yeah, so once I got entered to the residency program
Uh,
and I worked with Adobe people,
mm.
they don't really talk about their personal thing, but they just talk about
Oh,
the
really?
topic we need to, which is so insane. Yeah, like
Oh,
so strict and usually their meeting is like 15 or 30 minutes.
okay,
So yeah, so I always had to create the agenda to talk about beforehand
okay.
so that we can prepare for
Uh,
our meeting,
uh,
like with you.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. So and then you exactly do the same,
yeah, yeah.
like Adobe does.
Mm.
So I just thought that American culture uh American appreciate the professionalism at work, I guess. But
We,
maybe I don't know.
uh, so,
What do you think?
uh, so there is that, right? And Adobe is a
Yeah.
huge company that has
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people working for them. So it makes, I didn't realize it would be that strict, especially how it's meant to be a whole creative company. And part of
Mm-hmm.
what I've experienced through creative companies is that there's culture. There's a little bit more laid back culture, but I guess with Adobe it's a little bit different. But that being said, so I
Mm-hmm.
can kind of understand them trying to be efficient. But
Yeah.
I've been part of a huge company. Even when I worked in Vegas, is that there are meetings where it was more personal, right? They kind of had an agenda, but
Mm-hmm.
it was a very loose agenda, and it
Oh,
was so there was a lot of basically a 15-minute meeting
oh.
it could easily turns into an hour 2 hour meeting, and it was
Mm-hmm.
to the point that my colleagues, my team members, would be upset about this because of course, and I understand their perspective is because we had a lot to do, and that
Mm-hmm.
like that 1 hour 2 hour just ate into their deadlines that they had for that day, and it ate
Mm-hmm.
into my deadlines too. um, so I understand uh, that kind of perspective, and
Mm-hmm.
but I guess my point is like we have that too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's just it's both too. Like
Mm-hmm.
for me and you, like yeah, you've noticed that I've wrote out agendas and stuff like that too. But um, like I try not to be so strict about it, whereas like we need to do this, and this because I want
Yeah.
to. I like I mentioned before is I enjoy talking to artists, so I through these meetings we're going to talk about art, but I also want to talk about like your passions, what
Mm-hmm.
like all the different things that make up you, because I think that
Mm-hmm.
will best help me, of course, to get to know you better, as also be able to present things and ideas to you that will only help you out too. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so I like to kind of get personal
Mm-hmm.
as well as talk
Yeah.
about the art. So
Oh yeah, me too.
yeah,
Yeah. And I feel like talking to you, it's so meaningful, like in many ways.
thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
same thing to
Yeah.
you. Yep, same thing
Oh,
to me.
thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mentioned before, like you call me your mentor, but at the same time, it's kind of like that mentor kind of implies that you're like I'm your teacher and you're learning from me. But and
Mhm.
I love mentors and I have mentors like I told you before. But there's one thing about that kind of mentor culture I don't like is that it implies that you're the only one learning from me. Where I don't like that philosophy at all because at the same time you're learning from me, I'm learning from you. So it's kind of a symbiotic relationship. That's how I
Mhm.
like to approach it too. Like you're teaching me a lot. I'm learning so much about Japan culture. I'm learning so much about you personally. I'm learning so much about your struggles, how your client relationships, your client struggles are different than um, client struggles in within the American culture. So I find that
Mhm.
interesting. That's kind of why I put that one note in the podcast notes
Yeah,
because
yeah.
I think that's
Yeah.
yeah, no podcast out there talks about the cultural impact of the
Mhm.
way you do things. So I think that would be um, between you and I, we have three different cultures, right? You have the Japanese culture, I have the American culture, I have the Korean culture. So
Mhm.
and technically I have the black culture too because I'm part black. But
Oh, are you?
yeah, so I'm
Oh.
mixed with I have a lot I have a lot of things in me. So but yeah, so
Yeah,
but
yeah.
yeah,
I'm
um
glad that you pointed out the cultural difference
yeah.
that influence our work too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
I,
culture is a huge part of the way you work, right? It
right.
has huge influences. Like you
Mhm.
were just telling me in our previous meetings how Japan culture is a lot more passive than American culture, right? So there's
Right.
a lot of different things that go in there,
Mhm.
but we don't really talk about that. But I think that's hugely
Mhm.
important to talk about, right?
I think so.
So mm,
And I think also you talked about the mindset
yeah,
and
huge.
on the list, and I think the mindset and the cultural background really relates to each other.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, based on my experience during my residency.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you pointed out,
Yeah.
and you are so sharp at finding, the problems and yeah, yeah,
Thank you.
and the topic.
Yeah.
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 So yeah, but and I I realize uh, you know, these mindset and our cultural background really different influence to our work. But that's how I felt. And uh, American and my other fellow resident didn't feel that
Okay.
because somehow American culture and European culture are connected to each other.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
especially, England and America are nearly same language.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
they use English.
Hmm.
So for some reason, European and American are very similar, and
Yeah.
Asia and Western are so different.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I was also having problem the way I talk to people at Adobe
Hmm.
because the way I talk sounds like very passive or
Mm.
I'm not confident enough to work with. But I'm
Mm.
actually confident, but
Mm.
the way I talk, it's so genuine and
Mm.
kind of way in Japanese way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I was facing on the cultural difference.
I've been there. I've
Yeah,
been
yeah.
there a lot. Like Aiko, if I could tell you how many experiences I've been through that to the point where
Hmm.
um in general, I try not to let anything kind of upset me that way because at the end of the day, I don't like giving. I have this thinking that if I don't try to let people outside forces upset me because I don't want to give that control to them, right? So so but I've experienced so many frustrations internally where people misread my intent, a tremendous amount.
Oh.
Where
Mhm.
I'm trying to, for example, when I worked in Las Vegas at a company, the web team consisted of just the web people.
Mhm.
So we were a web team within the marketing team, but the marketing team had other like teams, and we had the graphic design team and stuff like that. So within there, my first year of working there, one of the my boss's supervisors, what I would constantly do is I like to when I'm in a team, I like to over communicate. I like to, make sure everybody's on the same page. That's kind of my
Mhm.
communication style. And so,
Yeah.
but whenever my boss's supervisor would talk to me about something or we talk about an idea, is that I would say, okay, let me get with my partner, with my teammate, and tell her. Okay, so I kept doing that all that. That was my habit through that year. Then I found out when I was reviewed, I found out that she interpreted that, she and her boss interpreted that as me not being confident. Where in my mind, when I heard that, I didn't understand how she interpreted me not being confident in doing web because I've been doing it for so long that I
Yeah.
didn't understand how she came to that conclusion. Um,
Mhm.
and so it hurt me because, like I said, is like if you, I'm trying, my intent comes from a good place. And when somebody misreads that, especially if someone doesn't have the communication with me to clear up that misunderstanding, if they just jump to conclusions, it kind of hurts, right? So, yeah, I understand where you're coming from. I understand that the way that you can act and the way that you're being, even though in your head is one way, other
Mhm.
people can interpret that as something else. And
Right, right.
yeah,
Wow. But why did your boss say that you're confident? I think being confident is really good sign, though.
no, she thought I wasn't being confident. She
Oh, you're
That I
not?
wasn't
Oh,
because every time I had to,
oh.
and I didn't understand her reasoning at first, but she told me because I always had to go to my teammate and kind of tell what the plan was. She didn't, she saw that as me not being confident because I would always have to go to her, right? But
Uh,
that's not what that was. It wasn't like me feeling
right.
that I had to go to her. It was me feeling that
Yeah.
I wanted to over communicate and make sure that my partner, my teammate knows that what's going on. Even if she
Right.
wasn't doing that specific job, I wanted to communicate with my teammate that hey, this is what I'm working on.
Yeah.
So she kind of knows, right? Just over communicate. In life,
Yeah.
I've just learned to over communicate because at a job before, I didn't necessarily communicate that much, and it taught me no, I better over communicate because if you
Mm-hmm.
don't communicate properly, it can lead to big problems. So when I
True.
came to this job, I over communicated, but that over communication
Works well.
made her my supervisor kind of misunderstand the intent of my
Um,
communication. So
mhm. Oh,
yeah,
wow.
so
Wow.
mhm.
But um, the way she got your behavior affect your evaluation.
Yeah, it,
Oh,
it,
really?
it hurt my evaluation. Yeah.
Oh,
So,
no.
yeah, but I didn't have any control over that. I wish they'd done it a little bit differently, but I was able. I don't know if they read it, but like they gave at the end of the because this was an in-person meeting. Then at the end of the in-person meeting, they gave me a document to look over, and they gave me a section where I can comment on any of their opinions and see if I agree with them or not. So I wrote a full page saying, no, I don't agree with it. This is why. Kind of just telling you what I did. I think you're kind of seeing my what I did in a way that's
It's,
not what
mm,
um, was my intent. So from there, I hope they read it and went on from there. But anyways, at the end of the day, like it didn't really it bothered me at that time at that moment because I don't like it when people perceive my intentions to be something malicious, especially when I'm
Mhm.
trying to come from a good heart. And from
Mhm.
there, but other than that, like so people have more control than they realize. And what I mean by that is currently my teammates that are still there are going through a lot of frustrations, right? And
Mhm.
here's my perspective on it is like I left because I wanted to make a change in my life. So
Right.
people are in control, so you can either dwell in whatever situation with and feel like you are the victim, but I don't like that mindset. I like the mindset of you have more control than you think, and
Mm.
you can make that change. Instead of you
Mhm.
feeling like so many people want to feel like they are the victim of a situation. And true, there's a lot of situations that are horrible, that are devastating and really impact your lives. But there are a lot of other situations that could have happened to you and that you can actually make a change um,
Mhm.
for the better. So
Yeah.
from there, I just like I left. I always knew I wanted to leave and kind of do my own thing. I've known it since
Mhm.
I was when I was in my 30s. So well, technically I'm still in my 30s, but I knew it when I was in my early 30s. So yeah, so it just that was just another reason for me to know that you know what I need to do my own thing. So
Mhm.
mm,
Yeah, I love that.
mm,
And I exactly feel the same too.
yeah.
When I
So,
started doing the freelancer.
uh-huh.
And actually after I became freelancer, I'm learning so many things about myself,
Yep.
and also the way the industry works,
Hmm.
and how to work with people in the overseas too.
Hmm.
So yeah, and especially my residency. Well, I haven't been able to answer all of the
Hmm.
question to you, but I was going to mention that the my mindset really changed in positive way after I became a resident.
Mm,
Yeah,
mm,
which is really good thing.
yeah.
And yeah, and how important being positive is,
Hmm.
and you know and after I met you, my situation also changed in positive way already.
Uh,
Like, yeah, like, well, like on the Instagram, nothing is happening yet, but mindset and my soul,
uh,
it's it's totally burning now.
yeah.
So 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 yeah, yeah, yeah,
Very good.
yeah. So I'm trying to believe in myself because you believe me,
Hmm.
and you say that to me too,
Yeah.
which is really thankful.
Yeah.
Uh, so I think, we always have fear and we are not sure how awesome we are.
Hmm.
But, once people constantly telling us how awesome we are changing,
Exactly.
um, our mind
Yeah.
in very positive, and our action will also change.
Yeah.
So every single, a little, single change will affect our life eventually,
Yeah.
and also my artwork as well.
Hmm.
So after I became my resident, my artwork got so colorful, actually.
Oh, really? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, which is kind of surprising.
Uh,
But when I feel positive, apparently I use the bright colors and
hmm.
very colorful,
Hmm.
and I was not afraid of mixing lots of colors.
Mm,
So yeah, I think I got less fear after my residency and after I met you.
mm.
So yeah, so yeah,
That's so
so
wonderful.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
really wonderful.
Yeah.
So I actually talking to my friends about you.
Okay.
Yeah, because
Are they artists as
af
well?
Yeah,
Okay.
actually, my other Japanese resident, Takuma, I don't know if you know him
I
or
saw
not,
I
but
saw a little bit about him. I
I,
saw yeah,
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 yeah, he's a intellectual, in experiential designer.
yeah,
So he's probably like tech guy and like programming guy.
yeah.
Um, but once we finish our residency, the problem is, it's hard to keep ourselves motivated
Let's do a
because
meeting. Let's do a meeting with he, you, and me together one of these days.
oh, sure,
Yeah.
yeah, but I'm not sure. He he's not like friendly like I am, and
Okay.
yeah, and we I can bring him together here, but I'm not sure if it's gonna work because because he's very talkative and I like him, but sometimes he's just too much sometimes.
Yeah,
So yeah, at some point I'm gonna introduce you,
okay.
but I wanna keep our meeting
Okay.
like a in
Okay.
private at
Okay.
this moment.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Hmm. Yeah, but yeah. So yeah, I think we definitely should talk about this thing in our podcast.
Hmm.
But yeah, yeah. But since you've been researched about the topics that we picked, I'm not sure mindset and the cultural background affect to the working environment. Uh, Fun topic to listen or not. So, um, yeah. So I don't know.
Say that again. What was your question
Uh,
again? Sorry.
yeah, our mindset
Hmm.
thing and the working environment
Hmm.
that affects our cultural background.
Oh, totally.
Uh, yeah, this topic are very interesting
Hmm.
and so unique,
Hmm.
but I'm not sure how many people are interested in that kind of topic.
Well, clearly people are interested in it because you and I are interested in it too, and you and I aren't.
Hmm.
We're not anomalies in this world, so I'm sure other artists have very the same frustrations. For example, um, I know I haven't known you that long, but I know there's a few issues right off the bat that I'm positive that you go through as an artist because these are universal truths that artists go through. Like client work, client frustrations is something that you go through. Dealing with perfection, I'm sure, is something that you go through.
Hmm.
And so there are these things, these topics that I know like nearly 99% of all artists go through because I mean, that's the artist's life. So
Hmm.
I'm sure other artists do go through them, but there is a way using my more data-driven kind of approach and mentality. There's an easy way for me to figure it out if that is a struggle that's being talked about because I can just do like Google research and I can easily see if that comes up.
Oh
But
yeah.
I'm sure it is even but I'm sure it does. Your working environment has a tremendous impact onto where you are
Mm.
and the work you do. And just like
Yeah.
the example that I gave you before with DirecTV, how the director was giving the data showing her like her company was being, especially her team, was more productive during the COVID-19 time because they get to work from home versus the
Hmm.
time when they were in the office. Because when you're in the office at any company, there's called um, office politics, and every
Mm.
person goes through these office politics. I'm not sure how drastic they are in Japan, but they can be pretty drastic in America. But when you're working at
Oh,
home, you don't have to go through that, right? So
right.
it's your it frees up a lot of mental stress. And people only want to focus on the physical stress of things and the physical dangers of things when when your brain is your operating system. So if you
Mm-hmm.
have mental stress or mental frustrations, it's going to impact you more than any physical thing, is my theory.
Mm,
So
right.
your
Really.
mentality is huge. It's a topic that I am excited to kind of talk about with this
Mm-hmm.
podcast, and I don't think enough people there are a lot of people talking about it, but I think it can even be talked about even more. So,
Mm-hmm.
yep.
Oh, wow. It's actually really interesting view
Mhm.
that you see. And
Yeah.
it's also interesting that American culture also has the company politics, I mean the office
Yeah,
politics.
yeah, yeah,
Wow.
yeah, yeah.
Wow. Well, in America, how so? Like, how is the office politics like? Like, did
I
you
can give
need
you
to
so
do
many
any?
examples. I can give
Oh
you so
yeah.
many examples.
Uh,
It can go any different type of way. For example, I'll give you this. So my former boss was the first time I ever worked for with a woman. Usually, all my bosses beforehand were men. So I was super excited to work with for this female boss because it was a new experience for me.
mhm,
And I was curious as the differences what working for a man would be from working for a woman, and it is very different.
mhm.
There are very good differences and there are very bad differences. But one thing I will say is that um, it was easy for her to get stressed about things, and even if she unconsciously did it or consciously did it, whether she did it on purpose or whether she was doing it by accident, she transferred her stress onto us. And
Oh
so,
yeah, that's
yeah. So what I mean is that if she had like a deadline or something like that, she would get really frantic. And if that deadline was attached to one of our jobs, she would immediately storm to the go to the other person, and she would uh, basically just present a thousand different questions, right, to this person, and like I felt it, my web partner felt it, and we were like we had to make a lot of content, and like the content writer in our team
Mhm.
felt a lot of it too. Just like uh, eh, just like whenever we needed clarification on something, and she wouldn't get back to us in time, or just like a lot of the stuff that was being held up was actually more than 90% of the time was because it was on her piles of to do, and she was holding up the progress of those jobs. And but again, it goes back to her stress kind of transferring to us, where she felt the pressure of trying to complete it, and then we inherit that pressure. So it, and there's many other different examples,
Mhm.
just even the way that she talked to people. I'm not sure what the reason was, but a lot. Hey, in some ways, she was the nicest boss I ever had. But there are times when the way that she communicated people made you feel like you're being talked to like a child. So
Oh,
yeah, so it didn't make you feel good. So
like how did she act? Like how did she behave like that? Like how what behavior made you think that way?
so for example, she would say something like hey, I gave you this job over a week ago. You should have had it done by now. Um, I could have done it in 2 days, but it's taking you to do it in it's like it's taking you more than 5 days to do it, right? It's
Mm,
like stuff like that. You can kind of see she phrases things in a way that makes it subtly feel like it's your fault, even though
mm,
you were doing the best in terms of getting clarification from a job or trying to move it forward, but there's been a delay on her part, right? So It's this it's just a there's a little bit of lack of accountability on her shoulders, and she wants to put that accountability onto you, which I understand most bosses do that. Most bosses feel like if you get a job, like you have to do it, is your accountability. But I'm from the perspective of like to be a great boss, you have to be a great leader. And all leaders take accountability for their actions, no matter what. No matter if you're the leader of a two-person company, or no matter if you're a leader of a 10,000 person company, is you have to realize that you have to put your as a great leader, you have to put your employees in a position to succeed, and that you have to
Mm,
realize that you work for your employees, not the other way around. So many
mm,
people, especially in America, when they're a boss, they want to throw their power, they want to show
mm,
their power to their employees, and whatever they say goes, right? But that's not a great leader. A great leader
mm.
makes other people around them rise to the top, right? So,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, it's really good point.
Mhm.
And I hope, the boss in the world is
Mhm.
going to change the act
Yeah. So,
and the behavior.
yeah.
Wow. And also it's interesting to hear that female boss and man boss
Mhm.
act like different way based
Yeah,
on your experience.
there's a lot of similarities. Like I said, like she was probably the nicest boss I had, but at the same point, like there's also other things that impacted too. Like
Mm.
um she was the nicest boss, but she wasn't the easiest boss I've had to talk to. Like my
Oh.
best boss by far is back when I was on the East Coast in Pennsylvania. He was by
Mm-hmm.
far what I consider a true definition of leadership. And
Mm.
um, for example, one of the things, now I haven't worked for him in over what, like 15 years, but just to show you
Mm-hmm.
how great he was, is that
Mm-hmm.
because I still kind of remember this instance, right? For
Mm-hmm.
example, it was my first job right outside of college, and I was working in marketing, and had to do a lot of the graphic design works and marketing materials, and it was just me in that department, with just him and I. And so I had to produce a lot of like magazines and stuff like that for this company
Mm-hmm.
and catalogs, and I'm also adding all these products to the magazine and, well, to this catalog as well as to the website. And there will be
Mm-hmm.
times when I like make a mistake, and then I would have a one product at one price when it wasn't a price. It didn't happen all the time, but it happened a few times. And there would be other times when there would be other mistakes. So the reason why he was such a good boss is because, hold on a second, let me switch.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
The reason why he was such a good boss is
Mm-hmm.
because he understood me, and what I can do, and he went to bat. He defended me a lot. He protected me a lot, meaning that when the higher ups of that company, like the VPs or whatever, saw this mistake and saw that like I was kind of like in charge of doing that, they immediately blamed me for it. But he defended me and said, you know what? I've worked with Jay for so long, and this is not the type of thing that he would do. So he would put his life on the line for me because he would defend
Mm-hmm.
me, right?
Yeah.
Um, so, and
That's
there was many times he did that, right? That is a
well,
leader. That
yeah.
a leader takes responsibility and charge for the people within their group, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so even when thing and also a leader, so when things go wrong, a great leader doesn't think about saving himself, but a great leader thinks about helping his team, right? So
Mm-hmm.
like I remember stuff like that. And also it wasn't just all like rainbows. Like when I did something that was wrong, he had to talk with me, and we worked out how things could be better, right? So he was there for me when I needed it to make the correction to improve, and he was there for me when I needed it, and when I when I needed to in terms of him being the shield to protect me from drama or from office
Mm-hmm.
politics. So
Mm.
yeah.
Wow. That's the way the boss it's supposed to act.
Yep.
It's like a perfect model
Hmm.
of being a good boss.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just one question came up, but like you are freelancer since you became Southeast or I don't know, but
Well, technically, I'm not a freelancer. I'm self-employed. They're
oh,
two subtly different things, right?
oh,
So,
okay, yeah,
yeah,
right.
yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Oh, okay, okay. So do you think well, there's also the question going around on in Japan, but I just want to ask you that
Mm,
do you think we should work at some companies before we get self-employed, or you can directly jump into become the self-employed after we graduate from college. What do you think?
good question. That's a very good question, Aiko. And it's all about self-awareness. So you have to know
Oh,
yourself and what your goal is. You like remember we started this whole collab with me asking you what your goal is. Once you know what
mm-hmm.
your goal is, you can reverse engineer it and find out what the best path for you is. Some people I would recommend going to a company and getting their experience there. Other people, depending on how well you know yourself, don't that wouldn't be a great thing to do. So it just depends on your self-awareness and what you want to achieve in life. Yeah.
Oh, okay. But also one thing I find the interesting thing. Well, it's happening only in Japan. I'm not sure American also feel the same, but most of the Japanese and also my friends are having problem to find the self-awareness and
Mhm.
also what they want to do, but like they are not even sure what they want to do. And yeah,
They're probably young,
so
right?
um but no, not that much.
Okay.
Like I'm actually the 34 now,
Okay.
well 33, and then and my friends are the same age, and
Okay.
of course they have a job,
Yeah.
but it seems like um it's not, their passion job.
Okay. So,
Because well, like me and my artist friends have a passion and we know what we want to do.
mhm,
So we just, go for it, right?
mhm,
But even though we have fear
yeah.
about, going through, but we do it anyway
Mhm,
because we know what goal we want to achieve.
mhm,
But the other people, like working in company, they don't really have any life goals, but they have goal to just live a good life,
mhm,
and maybe they don't have to be a billionaire, but at least they wanna make a good money
mhm,
and make a good living and having the kids and having the beautiful family,
mhm,
you know stuff like that.
mhm,
So yeah, so especially for Japanese, uh, it's a huge problem that they can't find, you know, what they want to do.
mhm.
So, so the popular question in Japan is how to find what we want to do.
Another good question, and this is actually surprising easy. This is a surprisingly easy answer, but we as humans overcomplicate it. So the
Yeah.
answer is you need to try as many things as possible. Just try
Right.
different things, and then you're naturally gonna find or gravitate
Mhm.
and be
Mhm.
attracted to a particular thing, right? And you know it's
Mhm.
gonna be something you enjoy is because even when you're not particularly good at something, you enjoy the process of it. So you
Right.
know you really like something because you enjoy the process of
Mhm.
it. So, for
Mhm.
example, I've known I've wanted to help artists for a long time because I've enjoyed helping people in general, and then I've enjoyed talking with like artists too. And like I said, in our first meeting, I told you I wanted to do more of these.
Mhm.
And at the same time, is uh, at the time you were kind of mentioning that you wanted to give back to me, or if there was anything I was
Yeah.
expecting to from you, and I told you I don't want your
Mhm.
money. I basically said that I don't want you to pay me. You're not the only one to ask that question to me. Everybody who's asked that question to me, who's met with me, I said I don't want your money. It's because I enjoy the process of it. So, um, so is that's the answer, right? Try as many different things as
Mhm.
possible,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
just if you enjoy the process of it, then you have something there. So
Mhm.
the problem lies
Right.
that people have a problem making a decision because they kind of wonder, like, okay, I enjoy doing this, I enjoy doing that, and I do doing this other thing. Which one do I start with first? How do I make a decision on which one to pick? People want to
Mhm.
make overthink it. Life is not one linear direction, right? It's not
Mhm.
just this one thing. Life
Mhm.
is a collection of all your experiences together that
Mm.
that
True.
you put together to produce a wonderful thing, right? For
Mm.
example, like I've been in web design, I've been in graphic design, I've done like illustration stuff like I've done all these different things, and all these different
Mhm.
things enrich or add to what I'm doing now to make it a more richer experience for you. So
Mhm.
it's like you don't worry about picking the right thing because there is no right thing. It's just
Mm.
just
True.
go for one thing and just do it, and
Mhm.
then you'll discover. Or in my life, I discovered like it's what I like to call seasons of things. How like there's spring, summer, fall, winter. The four different
Mm.
seasons. Is that I've noticed within the year there are seasons of which um, of different activities I like to do. Like in certain months, I'll do maybe I'll draw more. Like for example, like during this COVID time was a blessing. I find that I'm actually creating a lot of art more during this COVID
Mhm.
time versus the previous uh, compared to last year, right? So
Mhm.
I've drawn, illustrated, or created stuff during this COVID time about way more than I ever did in the total of
Mm.
last year.
Mhm.
So, and
Yeah.
you can't judge yourself for that. You just realize that there are certain times you're gonna want to do this, and there are other times that you're gonna want to do that, and that's okay. So,
Mhm.
this is why I kind of told you about the podcast is because well, one is because I was being empathetic because of you feel like you have a lot of client stuff, but you want to do this, right? So what I
Mhm.
didn't want to like force you into doing this or being for a long term.
Mhm.
But the other reason why I said to do the 10 episodes is because I wanted you to try it out and see how you feel about it. Because you never know,
Right.
like you may feel like the podcast has been such an enjoyable time that even though I'm doing
Mhm.
client work, I still want to make time for it as and put it in part of my life on more
Mhm.
basis. So you might want to do maybe 10 more after that or whatever. Or you might
Right.
feel the opposite way. You might do 10 and you feel like I don't enjoy the process of it. So maybe let's like cut it back or something. So
Mhm.
it just having that self awareness and kind of realize that life is not just a linear path.
Mm. True.
Mm,
That's so true.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And every word really motivates me
yeah,
and yeah, pushes me like in a
yeah,
good way, really.
yeah.
Wow. Yeah. But how did you find your self-awareness in your case? Like you became self-employed, but what made you decide to jump into, become the self-employed?
Very good question. Another, you're giving a lot of, you're asking a lot of really good questions. So I heard an interesting thing about guys. I'm not sure if it's true, but it kind of made sense to me. So I'm gonna assume it's true. Is the statistic said that this one artist, he's a watercolor comic artist. He does I don't really follow him much that anymore, but I remember at the time, like his work was great. He does these watercolor illustrations. It's fantastic, Aiko. And he was saying that he was 36 when he said that, and he was saying that in his experience, he has found out that most of the guys he knew that came to around their mid 30s uh,
Mm-hmm.
discovered that they wanted to start doing something of their own, meaning that he was basically saying is like it takes a guy to get to their mid 30s to become a lot more self aware in what they want to do. And
Mm-hmm.
for me, I guess I always kind of had a little bit self awareness with me, but I found that was kind of similar too, because in my mid 30s, in my 30s, I was listening to another artist entrepreneur and was talking
Mm-hmm.
about all these concepts that like I was attracted to these concepts. And so at that time of listening to him for I was listening to him for a while, I
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
that was a huge driving force for me um, to think about and plant the ideas of me working for myself. And the way I
Mm-hmm.
realized that is because I was mentioning to you before, like I had a lot of ideas with this
Mm-hmm.
company uh, of how to do things a little bit different. And at the time, I was thinking about leadership. I was thinking about these concepts that I'm telling to you. I'm talking to you with these concepts with like full confidence. But at that
Mm-hmm.
time, these were just like ideas I was forging in my head, and I was talking
Mm-hmm.
about like what leadership should be, how to treat your employees, and just how the your work culture should be. And I
Mm-hmm.
realized that like you know what I want uh I I really I actually don't like working for other people. I've always been a good employee. I've always done what's been asked. I always, done um, what my responsibilities were. But I actually don't like working for other people because I want to be part of something that where if I lead people, I want to be a great leader and help, push them to excellence. I want to
Mm-hmm.
have a culture that is not so strict. I want to have a culture that embraces fun, but at the same time, and is a culture of joy and just like being part of something that that you love what you do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I had like all these thoughts, and I realized that to to do these thoughts and to do
Mm-hmm.
these like concepts, I realized
Yeah.
that I needed to branch out on my own. So
Mm-mm.
those
Yeah.
were my mid 30s were like the if you think about gardening, like of a person growing a garden, planted the seeds. My mid 30s
Mm-hmm.
were me planting the seeds to a lot of these different things I'm easily talking to you
Mm-hmm.
about. So
Oh, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Oh, I see.
yeah,
But do you think it's hard to find the self-awareness sometimes?
yeah,
Or do you think it takes time to figure out
yeah,
what about self-awareness
yeah.
is?
And
Mm.
because people like I am blessed to have I'm blessed to have amazing parents, and I've always felt that my parents were very supportive. I know coming
Mm-hmm.
from, I don't know how your parents were, but traditionally speaking, Asians, um,
Parents?
Asian parents want their kids to go into engineering or medical or law or something that has a lot of financial upside to it. But
Mm.
I'm blessed to have, well, my mom was Asian. I'm blessed. My mom always wanted the best for me, and she always pushed me in a direction that was hugely supportive of my art. So,
Mm.
but not a lot of people have that, right? I've encountered so many people who've had a lot of dramatic and negative experiences uh, with their personal lives, and those
Mhm.
experience can that dramatic experience can of course impact the way of your thinking and kind of make things even a lot more difficult. So self-awareness
Mhm.
does take time. So it took me when I was when I knew I wanted to be an artist when I was really young because I remember in the elementary school like that I
Mhm.
wanted to do it, but at that time I didn't know that I wanted to help people. At the time, like
Mhm.
it took me a lot of years to realize that I wanted to help people. And I'll tell you an
Mhm.
interesting fact about me that I've only told my wife is that so when I was growing up in school, I always helped people with their class assignments. I always did that. And the reason I
Mhm.
did that is because I wanted to be liked. I wanted everybody to like me. So so I just help people naturally, right? But the funny
Mhm.
thing is how years later, I like the idea of helping people, but now I do it. Now my intent is different. The reason why I do it is different. Like, so
Mhm.
before I used to think about what, how people, I used to care about how others thought about me, the way they thought about me. I cared about a lot.
Mhm.
But now
Yeah, yeah.
I don't care at all what other people think about me. If you think I'm a jerk, then that's your thought of a jerk.
Mhm.
I know the truth.
Right.
I know the people that are
Right.
closest to me, I
Mhm.
they
Notice.
understand my intentions, right?
Right.
So
Right.
so I don't do it for being liked. So now I found out now I'm truly self-aware. I'm truly happy because now I know that I like to help people because I like to help
Mhm.
people. I'm not using it as a
Mhm.
way for to be
Mhm.
in good
Mm.
graces with them. I'm just doing it because I
Right.
love the game. I love the process. So
Mhm.
yeah, so and that took a long time for me to realize. But yet there are
Yeah.
other things about my life that I was pretty self-aware with
Mm.
early on. Like I knew I wanted to go into the
Mm.
creative field because I was self-aware at a young age. But there are other
Yeah,
aspects
yeah.
where it just took years. So it just depends on the
Mhm.
individual. But I think
Mhm.
the only way to be self-aware is just to
Mm.
do new things, try different things, right? So
Yeah.
I tried like in college I was a tutor.
Mhm.
Even after college I held classes where I taught people like web related
Mhm.
classes. So
Mhm.
just different things. Try
Mhm.
different things.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, I love to hear your story all the time.
Yeah.
And it's also I have the similar experience like you have.
Hmm.
I think the all the artists like current days
Hmm.
uh once once they became artists, uh probably or most of the artists walked through the same process
Hmm.
like we did,
Hmm.
like we had. But so, uh, this is really encouraging,
Hmm.
and it's one of a way to share, how to find our self-awareness
Hmm.
to other people. So, you listed up the uh, 8 kinds of podcasts, I guess.
Hmm.
But why don't we just talk about, you know, all of things?
Yeah.
Like we don't have to pick one theme and stick with it.
Yeah.
But once well, we are the artists together,
Hmm.
uh, we can just talk about self-awareness and what we talked about today, and also the cultural difference that affects
Hmm.
to the working environment,
Yeah.
and also one other things I forgot that, sorry, but uh, we can just decide the topic
Yeah.
for each episode
Hmm.
and then talk about our
Hmm.
experience. Well, mostly I love hearing your story. So my part, it's going to be like a interviewee kind of, but interviewer kind of. But yeah,
It sounds like you would be
but
interviewing me and I'll be
yeah,
giving,
I know, right?
which is fine.
Because your story is just so fun to hear,
Mm,
and I totally agree with your idea, and I have the similar experience before. So yeah, of course I can also talk about my thing.
yeah,
Yeah, but yeah, I was just thinking, how our podcast is going to be. But I'm not like a marketing girl, and I don't have knowledge to, increase our audience. So I'm not sure, in marketing perspective, it's a good way or not. But yeah.
no, you know how I said earlier in this conversation that you feel like you're learning from me, but I'm learning from you.
Mhm.
This is a perfect this is a perfect example of that where I just learned something from you, right? So when I sent you
Mhm.
over that list, it wasn't meant to be a list of like these topics aren't like
Mhm.
exclusively what we're talking about, right? I always knew that there was going to be other things that we brought up, but you just
Mhm.
said something that encouraged a very insight that I'm glad that you helped me realize is that
Mhm.
we as humans are dynamic people. We have
Mhm.
a lot of different interests and we grow all the time. Like the way we
Mhm.
are now will be different than the way we are in 5 years, right? And
Mhm.
so we are living, breathing entities. So what you helped me realize is why can't the podcast be that? The podcast doesn't need to be a in this container and be this static thing. It can be dynamic too. The podcast can grow and expand just like how we grow and expand. So
Mhm.
I was very glad that you said that because it triggered that thought that this podcast can be as dynamic and as living
Mhm.
and a breathing and a living and breathing entity just like us. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah. But I just don't know how, it's gonna work, and how we gonna work. So I yeah, so I'm just not sure what part I should work for. Should I just talk to you, and then you're gonna record our conversation, or how is it going to, work? Do you have any idea?
yeah, I have tons of ideas, Aiko.
Oh,
But
okay.
so I want to say this up front. You probably already know this, but these are all ideas. Think of this as a brainstorming session. And before we start, is I'm really all about positivity. So and I really believe that no idea is a bad idea. So I want to be part of a culture where like you and I both can say ideas and feel safe and secure to say any idea, and then we both build up upon that. There are so many
Mhm.
people out there that when they hear an idea, they immediately think of why it won't work. I don't like that type of
Mm.
attitude. I like the yes, and
Yeah.
here's how what we can do to even make it better, or how we
Mhm.
can do or find ways that we can make it work, right? So
Mhm.
so with that said is so my initial idea was we do like a conversational type of podcast like we're doing now,
Mhm.
where I
Yeah.
record it, and then after the recording goes, uh, we can do two things with it. We record a Zoom meeting, and then one is we post that conversation in full onto YouTube uh, onto YouTube. Then we extract the audio and post it
Mhm.
onto either a podcast format. We can post it on SoundCloud if you've heard of SoundCloud,
Mhm.
or we can use Anchor, the app that I was talking to you about before,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
then from there, so those are the full things. Then I could go back and we can take micro pieces of content. We can chop that up and later take segments of that conversation and release them out there to even get more use out of that content. So it's kind of like we doing one content, but we're getting so many uses. It's the same approach I
Mhm.
told you with Instagram, where you make an illustration and you take sections
Mhm.
of the illustrations to make a post out of it. You record it to make a, documented piece
Yeah.
of that. So it's the same approach, but with the podcast.
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, so that's the overall technical way of producing it. But the way that we would get to a topic is that you and I would have either an exchange of text messages
Mhm.
or whatever, and we would just kind of talk about anything that we want to address. It could be these the things could be purely selfish based. And when I use the word selfish, I don't what I mean by selfish, I don't mean a negative aspect of selfish. I just mean um, something that's driven from you, or that you mostly will benefit from. For example, when you ask
Mhm.
me questions about the about clients and how to improve
Yeah.
stuff like that, so it could come from a selfish interest in that way. So if you have a problem, whatever that you're going through, and we can use the podcast as a way to kind of voice those
Mm.
solutions. All right.
Mhm.
So whether you have something like that or have that something, or we could use it as a learning experience where you just said you don't know a lot of marketing things, right? So
Yeah.
you can use it as, you want to learn how to do X, Y, and Z. You want to learn how to do something. And so then, okay, then we get on the podcast. And of course, we were already talked about. We were already worked out. Okay, what is it that you want to learn? And then we'll kind of go back and forth a little bit. Then we'll go on the podcast, and we'll have a conversation about it, right?
Mm.
So it could just it would work like that too. And the same vice versa. There might be things that I'm kind of curious about that I want to ask you, and so it
Mhm.
goes from there. So I don't think this podcast will be just about you learning from me. It will be both
Mhm.
about like we learning from each other, right? There'll be times
Mhm.
when you will lead, and there will be times when I will lead. So, and there'll be
Right.
times when I don't know, potentially like we both will lead, or we both will learn from something, right? Maybe we bring
Mhm.
on somebody, and then we're learning from that person that we bring on. So,
Right.
but yeah, so it's a very it goes back to what you said. It's going to be a very dynamic, living
Mm.
thing, right?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Wow. It
yeah,
sounds that we have so much freedom
yeah,
on it, which
yeah,
is good.
yeah.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
no one solution or there's no only one topic to talk about.
Yep.
So it's really a good thing
Yeah.
and I'm excited.
Yeah. I was even
Yeah.
testing out like formats. So what I mean
Mm-hmm.
by that is I'm really stuck on the let me bring hold on. It's
Hmm. Sure.
this book right here. This book.
Hmm. Oh,
You
okay.
probably never heard
Good.
about it, but the
Mm.
author of this did a very spectacular thing, and what he did was at the time, he wanted to make a podcast, but like most people, he was thinking about what to podcast about. Is there a lot of podcasts out there? How he can stand out, right? And he, like myself, did research and he discovered there was no daily podcast out there. So what?
Mm-hmm.
So what he does is, his podcast is about um, actually, what he does kind of involves like a future plan I want to do for you. But anyways, we'll get to that in a second. Like what he talks about, um, people who turn like side hustles. Do you know what a side hustle is?
No, what is it?
Side hustle is just another American way of saying like you're doing another type of job to bring you some extra income. That's what it
Oh,
means.
okay.
So
Oh,
yeah,
got it. We
yeah,
have the exact same word.
yeah.
That of course different, but yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I know what you mean.
So he brings on people with different side hustles that and they just talk about how they started their side hustle and how much money they grow from it and what they do and stuff like that, right?
Mhm.
And it's a very short show. It's like they're around like what, like 15, 20 minutes. But the gem is he does it daily. And he swears by doing it daily made his podcast stand out a lot, because nobody does that. And so
Mhm.
that made me think about, okay, so the way you stand out is not necessarily about what you talk about, but how you talk about it and in which way you talk about it. So other things can contribute to how um, how to make your content stand out. So
Mhm.
so I was thinking about these ideas is so when I did the research, I found a lot of people really love like these practical advice and these quick tips. So one of the
Mhm.
things I was thinking about is what if our podcasts were just like these really short
Mhm.
um
Yeah, I
yeah
love short
yeah,
podcast.
really short
Yeah.
conversations that gave you just these quick tips.
Yeah.
And but they were daily. So they were like
Mhm.
5 times a week.
Yeah.
And
Oh, for a week? Oh, wow.
yeah. So yeah, I was just thinking about that, right? And but I was just thinking about it may seem like you do it 5 days a week, but that's when I thought about okay, right? You don't necessarily have to do podcasts every day. It's just you just have to have an episode every day. So what that means is we could have a long conversation on like any day, Sunday, Saturday, or
Right.
whatever. We could have our
Yeah.
2 hour conversation or whatever about various different topics. And then in
Mhm.
editing, we can cut that up into the different daily episodes.
Yeah, yeah. That
Yeah,
sounds good.
yeah. So it's just just that type of thinking, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, so that's what I was kind of experimenting. Or even it could be something like this too. Like I also mentioned that no one talks about step by steps, but I
Mhm.
noticed it will be really hard to do a step like if you did like a step by step on how to draw
Mhm.
um someone how to draw a head, right? If you did how to if you did a step by step of how to draw something, right? It'll be really hard to do that in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So I think the only way you can do it in a great way is for it to be a pretty long.
Mhm.
So even if you were to do a long podcast, does that mean every podcast had to be long? So I started thinking about it. So what if you had branded podcast episodes? So what I mean is, what if you had, what if you did 2 podcasts a week, and one was like an uh, in-depth conversation or in-depth step by step or whatever, and
Mhm.
that'll go out on Fridays, and like on
Mhm.
Tuesday we kind of branded it as Tuesday tips, and in Tuesday
Mhm.
tips it'll be the short 5 minute quick
Mhm.
tips for
Yeah.
whatever thing. So just like having, just like at a restaurant, like you go to a restaurant or whatever, and you'll
Mhm.
have like it will have like it might have a special name of a meal or a burger or something like that. Is using that same kind of principle for your podcast episodes, like Tuesday tips or I don't know, walk through Thursdays or whatever, or something like that. Like just
Mhm. Mm.
play around with that aspect of it. And what I kind of like about that is it encourages people to come in for Tuesday tips, right? They know they
Mhm.
need to listen on Tuesday because Tuesday's episode they can get their quick tips, right? So just
Mhm.
all these different ideas of how to have fun with your podcast, right? And let it be a dynamic um,
Yeah.
thing. So
Mm. That sounds really good.
yeah, so
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. But one thing I want to mention is y- you are saying that the drawing tips from scratch to the end. For me, I don't know. Maybe you can do that, but for me, I'm having hard time to just explain by word, but I I need to show my visual
yeah,
step by step.
hmm
So in this case, um, my sharing my working process by word, just by word, it's not going to work on podcast for me. So maybe you can talk about how you create your calligraphy thing by word, or I don't know. Depending on the topic, I can do it, and maybe I'm not good at doing it. So, but how do you want to work? Uh, work?
Well, remember what I said that we would record these video meetings,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
then we can post it up as a video and we can post it up as a podcast. So even though when I'm
Oh,
saying podcast, it will have multi uses from it. So
uh-huh.
it wouldn't strictly exist in podcast format, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if we were doing a very visual thing, one is we could just not have that visual part as the audio, or we could do it in a different way too. So there's always a way around to achieve any things. So, and here's what I mean is
Mm-hmm.
one of the good things about doing a podcast and collabing together is that you kind of already have a built-in marketing strategy. Meaning is that I would be posting the podcast episode on my blog as a like
Mm-hmm.
whatever whatever post, right? So I'll release it. So in doing so, we could have the podcast, and then we could have any visuals within the post of the podcast, right? It,
Oh, okay.
so
Oh,
that
okay. Picture on the
yep,
podcast too.
yep. So
Oh, okay.
yeah, so I mean they would have to come to so for example, is if they were on SoundCloud and they saw the
Mm-hmm.
episode on SoundCloud, podcast episode, we would just say something like, "Hey, Aiko is doing a step by step, right?" And to see all the images and to see all the visual aspects of this process, go out to Aiko's site or my site to see all that, right? And so they would
Mm-hmm.
see it on our site, right? It's a great way to drive traffic to your site, Aiko. It's a great way to kind of increase viewership and stuff like that. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
strategy I learned from this female photographer who's now she's a she's a creative entrepreneur now, but she started as a photographer named Jennifer Kushner, right? She was able to grow her traffic immensely from doing a podcast. And that's what
Oh.
she does. She incorporates, mostly it's just a conversation style, but she has like the notes of the podcast and stuff like that on as a blog post article. So and that's the same thing that I can do. Since I already have a blog, I can already put it up there, put all the visuals or whatever in there too. So it
Mm-hmm.
actually makes it kind of interesting because um, so for example, is that if you listen to it on your phone, the podcast on your phone, is you're hearing it one way, but then you realize you can have a totally different experience with that is if you go to a blog post and you see it, all the visuals, or you can even
Mm-hmm.
have a completely different experience with it if you see it on like YouTube. So one of my mentors told me is like the goal of building your brand is reduce friction, and what that means is you don't want to put up barriers for people to reach you, meaning you want to be as many different places because there's some people that are only going to go on LinkedIn. There are some people that are only going to go on TikTok. There are some people that are only going to go on Instagram. And there are some people that are only going to listen to podcasts, and there are some people that only listen to YouTube. So it's important
Mm-hmm.
for a brand to diversify the areas they are in to increase the chances of you having growing your brand awareness from there. So
Oh, wow.
yeah,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
yeah.
Oh, actually, after you mentioned about TikTok, I signed up.
Good job. Yeah, yeah,
I didn't post anything
yeah.
yet, but yeah, I did. Yeah, because
So
you advised me.
yeah, so I recommend is just whenever this doesn't have to be today or tomorrow, just whenever. Um, Look at it, study it for just watch stuff like for a good bit of time to understand the type of content on there. And then after you do that, try to figure out two things. One is post only the stuff that you like. You'll notice a lot of people dancing, doing dancing videos. You do not have to do that. Do what you want to do. But at the same
Mm,
point, like earlier we were talking about culture, how culture influences. Try to let the culture of TikTok kind of influence some stuff that you do. For example, you'll notice when people writing in their descriptions of the videos, they use the hashtag FYP. Why are people using FYP? Is because it's used to help increase their awareness on their videos. So
mhm. Wait,
embrace
what is
using
it?
hashtag
Wait,
FYP.
FYP?
Hmm.
What is it? I've
It
never
stands
seen that.
it stands for your page.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so people use the hashtag for your page or hashtag FYP.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, of
Oh.
course, because like you'll only notice that when you kind of study it. Like I've like studied
Mhm.
TikTok. So, and also I'll tell you one video did really well for me is when I took a popular TikTok dance and I tried to figure out how to do the artist version of that, right? So
Uh-huh.
so the dance was something like I'll, the dance was something like I'm gonna lean down to be able to do it. But the dance was like a simple dance. It went to a I'm trying to remember the beat. Dun dun dun. It was like dun dun. It was like dun 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 dun. Something like that. But anyways, it was of basically a woman doing dun dun dun, like doing this like little just simple hand motion dance, right? And I saw that dance and I thought, okay, how can I do an artist version of that? So basically, I know what artists like to do is before they draw, is a lot of artists will warm up, right? They'll do like either doing doodles and stuff like that. But I kind of made fun of it, or uh, I kind of made fun of it and said, like, so I did like I held a pencil and kind of like pretended I was doing the steps of the dance with my arms, but I was pretending like I was like, like drawing with each step. So I called it like this is what artists do to warm up, right? So, but it
Mhm.
used the same song and dance of that dance, right? And I got a lot of traction. So that's what I mean, like
Mhm.
embrace the culture and try to see if you can somehow use it into your own content.
Ah,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Wow.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, maybe I should do it. Like maybe I should do the artist dance. I don't know. But it's
Yeah.
really fun.
Yeah.
Well, do you have the TikTok too?
Yeah, I do.
Oh yeah, the same account name?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. I
Hmm.
will
Yeah.
look it up later.
Yeah. Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. Wow. So for the next meeting, should I will read your topic carefully, and then what should I prepare by the next meeting?
Uh, I don't have any specific deadline because I'm trying to really consider your workload at the time.
Mhm.
But as long as we like keep moving forward in the direction, so basically is so from here, what we have to do is well, you actually gave a lot of great insights in this video, so that was good. So I feel like we even have your input and my input, and so basically, um, all that is left to do is decide the format of it. Like, how frequently do
Mm,
you want to do these? It sounded like you were
mm,
okay with doing daily. Is if we approach it into like doing a long conversation on one day and just through editing, we edit it
mhm,
into daily things. So,
mm,
so it sounds like that might be a good one. So this is what I kind of recommend for starting out is I recommend one is we do 3 podcasts. Well,
mhm.
no, we do 10, but in addition to this 10, we start with three, but those first three won't be posted. The first three is just meant
Practice.
for us to just go through it and kind of get accustomed to doing it and just kind of getting in the feel of it. So by the time we do
Mhm,
number four, which is going to be our number four is going to be the number one that we release publicly. But by the time we get to
mhm,
number four, is we'll have like we'll have a better rhythm. We'll understand it a little bit better, so we know how to
mm,
go about it. The beautiful thing is
mhm,
you and I have been doing these conversations for a little bit, so
mhm,
I don't feel like we need that much work, but at least give
mhm.
us those 3 episodes of just kind of working out through
Mhm.
the process of it a little bit. And
Right,
then
right.
and so that's my first recommendation. And then kind of lost my train of thought. What was I gonna say, Aiko? uh so we do three. Okay,
Mhm,
do three, two. Okay. Oh, so our next steps will be just to kind of have a conversation about what type of conversations we want to have. So
Mm,
I just gave you a few different topics that
mhm,
I'm excited to talk about, but there's a lot. I think if we did one like one podcast episode every day, that's great because
mhm,
it seems like we have a lot to talk about and a lot to learn. So we can definitely
mm,
use I think we can get to everything that we possibly want to get to. And but we just have to decide like, okay, we want to decide what type of conversations that we want,
mm,
and at 5 episodes, I guess we have to have like plan out, brainstorm like the 5 different ideas that
mhm,
will go out.
mm,
So
mm, mm.
uh,
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So I honestly I don't really listen to podcasts before.
Hmm.
So from now I'm gonna um try to listen
Hmm.
and then find what I like. And yeah, I'm gonna observe the way of they're doing it.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm,
Can I recommend
okay.
some?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. One of my favorite podcasts by far is called How I Built This.
What?
How I built this.
Okay.
And what that podcast it's about an hour long. And
Mm-hmm.
what it talks about is it takes people like you and me and well, it takes people like you and me, but they've been on the journey for like 10 years or whatever. So they've become so their project, their company has become extremely successful. But it's an interview with those people on from the very beginning, like from their process of starting from nothing and building up their company from it being very successful, it being very successful now. For example, one of the podcast episodes interviewed the Instagram creators, right? And it talked about their journey of making it. And another one talked about like yeah, they talk about so many. We talk about they talk to so many different creators and just kind of or I'm sorry, not they, is a single person interviewing these creators, and
Mm-hmm.
he talks about their journey of how they started, like all that different stuff. It's very conversational style, like you and me are doing here, and
Mm-hmm.
it just goes from that. If you want something shorter, I recommend this one. It's called Side Hustle School.
Right.
It's
Okay.
yeah, it's
Wait,
very
is it also on podcast too?
yep, it's a podcast too.
Oh, okay.
Hmm. It's the one I was telling you about. It's a
Okay.
daily podcast. This is a daily
Oh,
podcast.
okay. Okay. Wait. Well, I'm actually on podcast app. I
Uh-huh.
mean, on computer,
Mhm.
and um, I don't know how to add podcast.
You just have to search for it and find it. And I think when you find that podcast, there's a button on there that you can subscribe to it.
Oh, where's the button? I found out how I built this, but
Uh,
let me. Can I share my
you
screen?
can share your screen. Yep, I was just going
Uh,
to suggest that.
oh yeah. Okay, hold on. How? Oh, well. I can't share my screen. I think apparently I need to.
Be the host.
Uh,
I'll make you the
yeah.
host.
Well, I need to get the permission from you, I guess.
Yeah, I think I have to make you the host.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, hold on. Um.
Okay. Now you can do it.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Hold on. Um. Where is it? Desktop. Yes. Open. Hold on. Oh, wait. Um. Oh, apparently I have to end meeting to change my setup. So I'm gonna leave,
Hmm.
or am I doing wrong? Or I don't
No, you
know. Am
shouldn't
I
have
doing
to
correct?
leave. You shouldn't have
Yeah.
to leave. Oh, you
Uh,
know why? You probably need to have Zoom installed. That's probably why.
what?
You probably
Zoom what?
do you have Zoom? Do you have Zoom installed? You do?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. So why?
But apparently I have to open my system preference and then change my setting to be able to share my screen on Zoom. But if
Okay.
I want to go for it, I have to leave this Zoom meeting to change it. I don't know.
I'm not sure. We can try it.
Okay,
Do
well,
you,
hold on. Uh, let me do it again. Oh,
is there any way you can load your system preferences while you're still in the meeting?
yeah. Oh, I think I can do that.
There you go. Perfect.
Yay!
Yep.
Okay. Okay. So I am
Yeah, I see
opening
it.
this. I find
Yep.
this,
Yep.
and then should I just subscribe
Yep.
here?
hmm
Okay. And then where can I see my
Click on the shows in your library on the left. I think it's shows. Go down. No, go
uh,
down. Go down.
oh, okay, so these are
Yeah.
my podcast list.
Yep.
Okay. And then let me oops. Side hustle. Oh, wait.
Yeah. Two words. There you go. Side hustle
Side.
schools. Number three. There you go.
Okay. This one?
Yep.
Okay. Gotcha. Okay. Got it. Wow. They have so many episodes.
I
Wow.
know because they do daily, right? So they do every day.
Wow. And then how many minutes do they have usually?
I think the episodes are like 15, 20 minutes. They're pretty
Oh,
short. Oh yeah, they're
okay.
short. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Or if we do it like daily podcasts,
hmm
we can just I don't know how to say. Let me let me type it. Let me look for it. I just don't know the word to
hmm
say in
That's fine.
English.
Take your time.
Hold-
It's all good.
Okay. Um, I don't know. Is it supposed to say quote? I don't
Cold?
know. Like yeah, quote.
What do you mean by cold? Like I know what you mean,
Quote.
but okay. Why?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like usually when I'm not good at reading books because uh, I'm getting tired of it
Okay.
all.
hmm
But one thing I only can keep reading is really short essay or short
Oh, okay. Okay.
short story.
hmm
So what I what I'm wondering is we can talk about so many things,
hmm
uh, um, and then we it's like a quote book, you know. I
hmm
I don't know if quotes book existing in America, but in Japan we have so many quotes book that is like a quote collection uh, by famous people or famous soccer players or um, artists.
Oh, I know what you mean. You don't mean
You know,
cold. You mean quote.
yeah, quote, yeah,
Quote. Quote. Yeah. I thought you were saying like
yeah.
cold, like you're cold.
Oh, okay. Oh, right, right,
No,
right.
you mean quote.
Oh, okay.
Okay, quote. Yeah.
Quote,
Quote.
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yep.
hmm Yeah.
Yep.
So, okay, well, let me stop my to share. But yeah. So I was just wondering if we do the daily thing,
hmm
it can be short, like 5 minutes or 10 minutes,
Yeah.
whatever. But I think whenever I hear your story, I feel like the way you are telling me is like a quote that
Okay.
that 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 I read. I feel like I'm reading some quote book, but it's like audio, you know?
Interesting.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, and then, sometimes I wanna take note what you say because
Um,
it's like a quote that
mhm.
I wanna, I
Gotcha.
wanna put on the wall, you know?
Hmm.
So, so maybe this way is very casual
Hmm.
and maybe you know we can catch people's feeling or yeah, I don't know.
No,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
no, no.
It's
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful idea.
mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I don't really listen to podcasts like I told you
Hmm.
before, so I just don't know how other podcasts works, you know?
Actually,
So
it's a
it's
good thing you don't listen to podcasts. You know why it's a good thing you
oh
don't
yeah.
listen to podcasts?
Oh, why not?
So when podcasts in general have been tremendously helpful. When I used to work for other companies, I would always listen to them on my commute. It would make my mornings enjoyable.
Mm-hmm.
But in this context, the reason
Mm-hmm.
why it's really good for you to not have listened to podcasts is because once you start listening to podcasts, you're gonna learn how they do it, which is
Right.
gonna subconsciously tell you, hey, our podcasts are gonna have to be like this because this is how podcasts are done. Versus you
Mm.
now not having any expectations and not knowing how they're done. So you're gonna help. So then, because you don't know how they're done, is then you're gonna have that freedom to carry over to ours. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So it's
Right.
so you're not relying on a blueprint. You're basically relying on what you want to do, what you want to tell,
Right.
and how you
Mm-hmm.
want to do it, which is,
Mm-hmm.
in my eyes, a lot more valuable than listening to another podcast and figure out how
Mm-hmm.
they do and figuring out the format and how they do it and then kind of bring it in there. Like I did a lot
Mm.
of research to kind of see what was out there and
Mm-hmm.
to help inform us. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, it's also good to kind of uh, stick to how you want to do it because you have a unique voice, Aiko, that no one can replicate.
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't want to water down or dilute your voice because that is everybody's trying to be unique. Everybody's trying to be different than everybody else. So they're thinking that the way to be unique or different is by their idea or how they
Mm-hmm.
do their idea, right? No. The way to be unique is by being you. The way to be, because you already have a unique voice, so your thoughts
Mm-hmm.
and the way you think is unique. Nobody else does that. Even my wife is a twin, and I'll tell you, even though they are identical twins, they are very unique. They're very different.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm.
your thoughts and the way you express them are unique. So you don't have to worry about creating a unique idea. You just be you, and that is what makes it unique.
Mm-hmm.
So, so
Okay.
yeah,
That's really encouraging.
yeah.
Thank you.
Hmm.
So okay, so maybe I don't listen to it.
You can if you want. So, I listen to. So I have two podcasts that I listen to. One is a science one. I didn't bring it up here. One is a science one because I'm a science geek or
Mm-hmm.
nerd. And the other one's How I Built This. I listen to How I Built This because it's so inspiring hearing the stories of people like us kind of build something from nothing and the way they did it. And I feel like I can learn a little bit from their journeys and maybe use some of what they went through, the struggles they went through, and kind of use it in my own path to kind of
Mm-hmm.
enrich my either
Mm-hmm.
make my journey a little bit more efficient or make my journey a little bit more enjoyable or just kind of learn something that gives me an edge, right? So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I listen to it. But I personally don't listen to it to say, hey, like I need to listen to this because I need to find out how podcasts are done.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it's totally worth listening to. I'm not trying to tell you not to listen to it. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, I just felt bad if you researched about our projects
Mm,
and I feel like I'm not doing anything. So that's why I thought I should research about the, podcast. But since you don't expect, you know, I research about things, but you respect being me, being myself. So maybe I should just try to be myself, and then um, I just tell you and share what I want to talk about, I
mhm.
guess.
Yeah.
Is it okay? Or,
Yeah.
um, yeah?
Yeah, if you're gonna say it that way too, one other benefit to listening to this podcast that you just subscribed to is that you may learn something on this podcast that you may want to bring back and kind of talk
Mm-hmm.
about what you learned, right? Like I haven't listened to the Side Hustle School podcast in a long time, and so you may decide to listen to an episode of that and learn something that we can bring into a conversation. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so
Okay.
it's all a circle. Like everything exists like together. So yeah.
Right. That's true.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
Gotcha. Okay. Okay. And then, yeah, one other amazing things about your message is I wonder how you figured what people love.
Oh, because there are reviews. There's reviews on the podcast.
Oh,
So
okay.
I just didn't take one or two reviews.
Mm-hmm.
I just took the theme. So I quickly looked at all the reviews and kind of saw like, okay, these three people are talking about this, but they all have to do with practical tips. So that tells
Uh,
me that a lot of people enjoy the practical tips, right?
mm-hmm.
Can I tell you?
Uh,
Can I tell you a funny story? This may make me look like a real workaholic, but can I? So when I was doing the podcast research, so a good buddy of mine invited me and my wife and I to go eat crabs. But I'm not a big
mm-hmm.
crab person. I mean, so all of them were eating crabs, and just the time it took to prepare and stuff like that, and all that stuff just took hours. So while they were doing this, I was I was on my computer doing the research for some podcasts. Like they were having, they were doing their fun, their
Wait,
typical fun. So
wait,
they're
wait. Oh, well, is it like do you have like a special AI machine to research everything for you? What does
no,
it mean?
the AI machine is called me, my work and my
What?
yeah. That I
Did
I,
you
I am the
create your
AI.
own? What?
So I did it. I looked up all these different podcasts and I looked at their descriptions. I wrote down their like like every podcast has a summary. So I basically took a summary of their summary. I wrote down a summary of their summary. So I read their stuff and I felt like, oh, how can I make this short and sweet so Aiko can understand it, but without having because they had I don't know, they had like 3 paragraphs worth of descriptions. So I wanted to shorten it down to like at least one sentence, and then
Mm,
I looked into their most recent episode. I looked into a bunch of their episodes to see the average length. I dove into all their reviews, glimpse at all their reviews, and kind of look at that. So, and
mm,
I did this in a few hours, and during those few hours, my wife and my friends were kind of like cooking the crab and kind of breaking it and stuff like that. So while they were eating, I was doing this research because I was excited. Like
yeah.
yeah.
But wait. How is it gonna work? I just can't imagine what's going on, you know?
What? What do you mean? What do you mean?
Like, I still don't get, how it worked. Like, did you just go to the podcast and read the summary like quickly and then read the review and then you you just summarize it, or any special AI machine look it up everything.
This is
You
the
did
AI
it, right?
machine. This is the AI machine. This is
Okay,
I typed in
okay.
I typed in search queries about art business, and I saw a bunch popped up, and within the podcast thing that you just have. So I looked in there, and then I also did a Google search about podcasts that do talk about art and business.
Uh,
So I found some, and then I on Google I looked at those lists podcast episodes. Then I put them into the podcast and searched for them. And then I just like looked. I looked and read like all of them. Then I took
mhm.
all that information and digested it and shortened it for you to present it to you. Me
Okay.
doing
Uh,
the work.
okay, okay.
Yeah,
I see. I got it now.
yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, I was just wondering if there's a like dramatic the special machine you have but okay, your brain. Okay, gotcha. Interesting. I see. Maybe you should collaborate with some scientist or tech to create the research
yeah.
research AI machine.
Mhm.
It's gonna be like a bestseller
uh,
or
you flatter me, Aiko. You flatter me.
no, no, no.
Mm.
You're just so good at researching about things. I really amazed, how good you are, you know, researching skill.
I
Wow.
never really thought about that. I think like I said before, I think it just comes down to my web experience and how you being a you working in web like almost required that you do a lot of
Mm,
research because it had to do with technology and technology was constantly changing. So
mm,
like to truly understand that you like had to constantly Google was your best friend. So I think
uh,
because of that, it helped me get
mm,
down the system
mm,
of being able to research efficiently and kind of
mm, mm,
going from that. Like, and that could be an
mm,
episode that we talk about on a podcast, like
mm,
the benefit of researching and how researching can help increase your brand awareness as an artist. And
mm, mm,
so there's like a lot of different things. So
mm,
mm,
mm. Right, right.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Mhm.
Okay. So yeah, I guess I have to go back to work since I'm meeting deadline. But yeah, definitely I'm gonna dig out um about
You're gonna what?
what
I'm
you
sorry.
I'm gonna think how I can share my knowledge and what I can talk about.
Mhm.
Mm, gotcha. Okay. And then, yeah, since your blog is posting on every Wednesday, so I will be in a hurry answering your
Okay.
question
Yeah, I'm not
for
really worried
sure.
about you. I'm starting to get a little bit more worried about Patricia. So I
Yeah.
hopefully she can respond soon
Mm-hmm.
because like when you guys send me the information, like I still have to do a lot of like formatting and gathering the images, uploading them, and kind of doing all that stuff. So hopefully she can get it to me by tomorrow, but we'll see.
Mm, mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah, yeah, I see.
Mhm,
Yeah, she seems busy too.
mhm,
Like she's doing the her projects going on.
mhm.
So maybe she's just busy, but
Yeah.
I will try to reach her as well.
Mhm.
And did you also mention that your blog is posting on this Wednesday?
No, I did not.
Oh,
She didn't really ask for a deadline, so I didn't
uh,
really say like this and stuff
mm,
like that. So
okay, gotcha.
yeah,
Okay, so I can just send her like a friendly reminder.
yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
will.
yeah.
So
Okay. Yeah, and let's see if she's gonna reply.
Yeah, so worst case scenario, she if she doesn't get back to me, then either I can do one of two things. I can either push it back to Thursday, or I have a backup article, so I can release that backup article, and then which gives another a week for her
Mm,
to send me the stuff.
mm, mm,
Um, but I'd like not to do that because I'd like to push this out Wednesday. One, because I know Emily is very excited, so she messaged me that she would like to
mhm,
see the link, all right, so she can check it out and stuff like that too. So
mhm. Yeah, yeah.
um, yeah.
Okay. Gotcha. Yeah, yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So yeah, I'm gonna ask Patricia, and if she is not willing to be part of it, I can also introduce some other resident
Oh
if
yeah,
you want to.
yeah, that
Yeah,
works.
that could be option too.
I would say, you know what? You should just go ahead and do that. Ask somebody because the worst thing that will happen is if Patricia does give me her things, it just means that we'll have another person to tell their story. So
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
so either or, it would be good.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, I can ask other person too.
Hmm.
But if I ask you and she says yes, are you also going to feature that person or?
Yeah, so they will be in an article. So if they say yes, they want to do it, they will be in an article too. So what I would just send them, like I did with you, I would send them the questions, and
Oh,
then
okay.
yeah.
Gotcha.
Hmm.
Okay. Then
Hmm.
yeah. Okay. In that case, I'm gonna ask them too.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Got it.
Can I share with you an idea that I have? A very
Yeah. Yeah.
long-term idea I have.
Yeah. Please. Please.
So I'm really interested in. So one of the things that I wanted to do is I talked about this on my site, but one of the things I wanted to do is I want to. I'm currently building a platform where I could bring on any artist or creative of any background. And by the end of our collaboration, like by collaboration, I mean through a length of time. I don't know what that length of time is going to be, 6 months, a year,
Mm-hmm.
2 years. By the end
Mm-hmm.
of that collaboration, they would have been able to grow their audience significantly because they were on my platform. And because of them
Mm-hmm.
being able to grow their audience significantly, is they would be able to make full-time income from it. So, I'll
Mm-hmm.
say full time, but let's just say ideally like an extra $1,000 a month. Let's just say that.
Wow.
All right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, uh, so I'm
But
getting.
what?
Go ahead.
But yeah. I don't know about what you meant by your platform. What does it look like?
No, my site. So my site, my blog, my site, as it exists now,
Okay.
right? Yeah. So my site.
Ah,
So so
okay.
yeah. So because I'm getting a lot of views and on it now, so and by not so when I say my site, I just don't mean my site. I mean my email. So so they will be on my site, they will be on my email newsletters, they will be on through my Instagram account, all my different platforms where I have an audience, and
Mm,
basically just kind of um it's kind of like I'll go back to Utada Hikaru, right? It's kind of like
mm,
how like on our album she'll sing with other singers and
mm,
stuff like that, and some people you never even heard of before, but now because they are on her album is her equate her album as to platform my platform because they're on her album, and they're singing with her, is now you kind of know who this person is. And if you feel that their work is good, their singing is good, you're probably going to go to Google and you're probably going to look at them and search for them and see what other stuff they did. It's the same thing, right? So
mm,
I'm going to have other people on my platform, and then it will
mm,
grow their brand. I don't know about how much. Um, and then ideally it would be able to make an impact on their finances. in a positive way,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm doing a beta version of that with you. If you haven't noticed, I'm doing a beta version of that and seeing this collaboration because I want to
Mhm.
understand how I know I will get more eyeballs onto your
Mhm.
content, but I need to figure out other things and kind of see how what other impacts that you have.
Mhm.
So I'm
Mhm.
doing as I do this beta version of it, I want to go there, and then so eventually I'm going to get to the point where I'm making like $5,000 a month or $10,000 a month, and where I want to get to is potentially be able to have that platform do that. But I know I'm going to need help, and I know I'm going to probably maybe have a small group of people or maybe an
Mhm.
extra person to be able to help me do more of it to
Mhm.
have more people to it. So
Mhm.
um, ideally, because I enjoy working with you, I might end up coming to you. Hey, if we did this for you, if Aika, we did this to you and got some good results, and I am able to have earned a good revenue from my site, like 5,000
Mhm.
whatever, I want to be able pose this idea to you where I could contract you, hire you as a
Mhm.
whatever, and you can help me in terms of growing and meeting. I don't know what that would look like, but basically, kind of like since I did it for you, to be able to kind of um, I guess because you're gonna offer me an interesting experience from this, right? Because I know how it is from
Mhm.
my angle, I know how it goes from there, but I want to be able to understand your struggles more and how as a recipient of this process, you to understand how you go through it too. So basically, I think you can provide valuable insights into
Mhm.
being able to attract other people and maybe us kind of working together to kind of see what that happens. But that's a very,
Mhm.
very long term idea and stuff like
Right.
that
Right.
that I had.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I have a different aspect, but
Mm,
I'm also expecting from our conversation and our collaboration
mm,
that I want to be an educator
mm,
in the future,
mm,
maybe in next 5 years.
mm,
You said I want to be artist, but I want to keep, I want to stay being artist, but also interested in
mm,
educator. So I'm learning how I can share my process and also my knowledge
mm,
um, through our experience. I mean, our collaboration.
mm,
And probably I've also noticed that our cultural background affect our working environment,
mm,
but also the way I talk uh, in 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 English and in Japanese, um, and also changing, depending on uh, what kind of people I'm talking to.
mm,
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know if you have same experience with me, but uh, for example, we talk about one topic, and then one thing I would like to tell uh, and share my idea to somebody. But if they are American, I slightly change how I explain and how to how I tell the conclusion. And for the Japanese people, I slightly change the way I explain, my experience to Japanese. You know what I mean?
mm.
Yeah, yeah.
I only know how you mean because Utada expressed the same thing. She talks about
Right.
she's fluent in English and Japanese, and she talks about how when she speaks in English, it's very different. Like she feels like she becomes more diplomatic when she speaks in
Mm-hmm.
English, and in Japanese it's a lot more loose and casual. So,
Right.
mhm,
Exactly.
yeah.
Yeah. It's just slightly
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
more change, but it's huge huge to have this knowledge. Yeah. So I'm also experimenting uh how the way I should talk to, depending on people who I want
Mm-hmm.
to reach out. Mm, yeah.
Yeah, I can understand that. Like, I feel like people wear different masks. Like, for
Mm-hmm.
example, is if when I used to work for somebody else, the way I would talk to my boss would be different than the way that I talk to my teammate, right? So,
Oh, really?
yeah, like, I was still me, but I was more careful about the words I chose and the way I talk to somebody superior than me versus friend. I basically um was at more ease when I talked to a friend versus somebody superior. Not that I'm saying I was like nervous around like a superior, but it's just I tried to be more thoughtful in the words that I used to make sure everything was as professional as it could be when I talk to, especially somebody uh, who was my boss. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's just
Wow.
part of like work culture. I think,
Uh,
yeah,
mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Thank you for saying that work culture.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah. That's the word I wanted to learn.
yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Anyway, yeah. Yeah, I have to go back to work now, but yeah, thank you so much for the meeting again.
Hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you are going to rest
Yesterday was my
today.
rest day. Yesterday was my
Yeah.
rest day, so I try
Oh,
not to
yeah.
do any work yesterday. So
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
um, yeah. So
Okay.
good luck on your
Okay.
deadline. What is your deadline? I mean, what are you
Mhm.
doing for your client, if I may ask?
Well, I'm working with the L magazine. You know L magazine?
Elle magazine, like Elle
Yeah,
magazine?
yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah, yeah, yeah. L,
Never.
like ELLE, like a fashion magazine.
Oh, ELLE. Okay, okay, okay.
Yeah.
Maybe it
Um,
kind of sounds
yeah,
familiar. Yeah,
yeah. It's like a Vogue.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like yeah, so I'm working with the L magazine, and then it's about the wedding issue. So I am making some the illustration for the cover, inside the cover
Oh,
of
nice,
the picture.
nice.
But it's not just a single image, but it's actually the three little covers that I have to draw.
Oh, okay. Because you'll be
So,
together.
mm-hmm,
Yep. Okay.
yeah. So yeah,
Awesome.
so yeah, it's fun job,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
also stressful.
Yeah.
Since I only have a week to I need to finish it. So
Mm,
yeah.
okay.
Mm, yeah.
Yeah. Good luck.
Okay.
I'll let you be then.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Always
Great.
enjoy talking to you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for giving me such positive attitude. I love that.
I'm glad. It just shows that
Yeah,
you
yeah.
are a positive person because if you can receive that positive energy and it makes you feel good, it just proves that you are also a positive person. So,
I guess so.
yeah, no, I know
Yeah,
for sure.
yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah,
Yeah, I think I'm positive.
yeah, yeah. You definitely are.
Yeah. Okay,
Mhm.
great. So yeah. So talk to you later next week.
Yep, most
Yep.
definitely.
Okay. And then same time.
Yep. In the meantime, during this week, we'll just message each other back and forth, casually.
Mhm.
It doesn't don't feel any pressure
Yeah.
from it. Like some ideas that we will want to talk about, like maybe like
Okay.
so. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whenever something comes up on my head, I
Exactly.
will, take it. Yeah.
Yep. Sounds good.
Okay, great.
Hmm.
Okay. So, thank you so much, and stay safe, and
You too.
have a good rest today.
You too.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, and say
Uh,
hi to your wife and your cat. I kind of see his tail. Oh, so
uh,
cute. Is he sleeping?
yeah.
Ah, so cute.
Mhm.
Oh, you made me wanna have cat. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, he's a good cat.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I'm sure he is.
Hmm. He's a
All
troublemaker
right.
sometimes, but he's good.
Oh yeah, I get money.
Yeah.
Yeah, he climbs up just, every single stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Mhm.
Okay, so
Yeah.
have a good week,
You
rest
too.
of the week.
You too.
Yeah,
Good luck on your
you
deadline.
think?
Let me know.
Oh yeah.
Message me when you're done, saying, "Hey, I finished this. I finished this deadline." Then, yeah, I will
Mm-hmm.
cheer for you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Well, my final deadline is next Friday.
Okay.
So yeah, yeah, but yeah. So I think this week and next week I'm gonna be a bit slow,
Okay.
but yeah, to reply your message or doing
Yeah.
things together. But
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but okay, but I'm glad you understand my situation. So yeah,
Okay. Yeah.
okay, great.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you and yeah, good night.
Yeah. Thank you. Arigato.
どういたしまして。How did you understand that?
Uh, yeah, I understood that.
Cool.
Hmm.
Oh yeah, cool,
Hmm.
cool. Thank you.
Hmm.
Okay, so bye.
Bye.
Okay, bye.